Good evening. Thank you very much for coming back to my channel, and welcome to episode 10 of Inspirational Invitational. This is my YouTube series where I invite inspirational runners onto my channel to talk about their running journeys. And with Comrades just a couple of weeks away, this is a Comrades special edition, and I've invited on 9 times Comrades winner, Bruce Fordyce. Welcome to the channel, Bruce.
Thank you. Yes, great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to see you again. I think it's been a year since we met at the Park Run conference.
Yes.
And I was hoping if I'm sure most people know you already, but if people don't know you, Bruce, please could you just tell us a bit about your background in running and your Comrades wins, please?
Yeah. Okay, Richard. Well, I ran my first Comrades Marathon back in 1977. Since then, I've run 30 of them, and been fortunate enough to win 9 of them, and a bunch of had a wonderful adventure running a bunch of other races around the world. It's very sad that it no longer exists, but I ran 3 London to Brighton marathons and quite a few other ultras around the world. And now I'm very proud to say I'm the country CEO of Parkrun, which is literally exploding here in South Africa. Yeah,
I bet. And when I was over there last year, I did Durban Park Run, and it was huge. It's like the biggest park run I've ever seen.
It's the biggest park run in the world. I think sometimes on a fairly regular basis, they get 2,500 people running.
Yeah, and I also noticed that you get a lot of people walking as well, don't you, in Durban?
Well, I think that's the magic, and it's maybe, I mean, we've inherited park run from the UK, but it was started by a South African, Paul Hewitt, but I think maybe what we could teach back to the UK is that we welcome, and in fact very slow walkers. So we have many people in our park runs who finish well over an hour, which is unheard of in most of the UK park runs. So they walk the whole way, they don't run one step.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant that happens there, and I'd like to see more of that happening over here, to be honest, because it would encourage a lot more people to participate.
It's an environment in which a large unfit person feels safe, welcome, and that they won't be laughed at or humiliated in any way, and someone will wait for them and take their time and give them their result.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that. So by that, I think people will hopefully understand that having won the ultimate human race 9 times, you do know a trick or two about running that race. To all the viewers, if you've got any questions for Bruce about running Comrades or running ultras in general, he's definitely the man in the know. So get your questions into the live chat early on, and I'll do my best to ask them all. And straight away, Bruce, we've got Jeffrey Chisnell on saying good evening, Richard and Bruce. So Jeffrey's South African, and I think he recently ran 2 Oceans.
Welcome, ran the 2 Oceans.
Yeah. So yeah, get your questions in, guys. So obviously this year then, we've got the down year, Bruce, and I don't know if all my viewers will fully understand the concept of the up year and the down year. So just talk them through that.
Well, the Comrades is a race riddled, and I'm saying that in a nice way, with lots of tradition and history, which I'm sure British runners would love, all that sort of tradition. And one of those is that every year it alternates in direction from going from Durban on the Indian Ocean to Pietermaritzburg, the capital of KwaZulu-Natal, the province there. And then the following year, it goes down the other direction. The only thing that's similar is that both similar distances, more or less the same starting and finishing point, but not actually. And then there are a number of other traditions, like if you've run 10 or more Comrades Marathons, you get what's known as a green number, your number that you run on the day, your bib, is green colored to signify that you've done more than 10, and there are different colored medals awarded for different times. So the top 10 men and women get gold medals. Thereafter, anyone who breaks 7.5 hours gets a silver, and so there are other medal categories as well. And probably the category that stuns and puzzles and horrifies runners from all around the world is that the race is 12 hours, and at exactly 12 hours, 5:30 in the afternoon, an official walks out and turns his or her back on the runners coming in and fires a gun on the stroke of 5:30. And if you are 1 pace from the finish line, you are not a finisher. Come back next year. Good luck. Thanks for trying. and that bit there is without a doubt the pinnacle of the day, with thousands of people screaming and people screaming at their televisions. I think that would be another thing that overseas runners would not understand, that the Comrades Marathon is televised live for 13 hours. From an hour before the start of the race right to the end, from the winner all the way to the last person who doesn't make the cutoff gun.
Yeah, I mean, it is basically South Africa's largest sporting event of the entire year, isn't it?
Well, they probably take issue with the rugby players who take issue with us football players, but it certainly is one of South Africa. It's not actually the biggest running event in South Africa. Parkrun now is, because we're averaging about 45,000 people every Saturday. But yeah, but as a one-off single event, it is, and of course it's nearly 100 years old. It's closely interlinked and intertwined with South Africa's rich and sometimes depressing history. For instance, black runners and women runners were not allowed to run until 1975, and so there are a lot of it closely parallels South Africa's history. And I mean, we all went absolutely wild, and we were so excited when Nelson Mandela came along, when he was recently elected president and handed out the prizes. We would not, the Comrades itself would not have foreseen that 20 years before that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that obviously South Africa does have its history there, and you can't ever change that. But I think now Comrades is way beyond that kind of segregation, isn't it? It's an all-inclusive event for everybody. Oh
yes, and all-inclusive, and a bitter subject for those of us who were winning in the 1980s that now has prize money. And even in South African rands, that's quite generous. Those of us who were winning in the 1980s, there was nothing.
Nothing but pride.
Nothing but pride. And actually, to be brutally honest with you, the money you spend, the title you keep forever. And I can tell you that to go down to the Comrades Marathon next week as a past winner, I defy any of the other past winners to say that they don't absolutely love it. You're a legend when you go down there, and everyone wants your autograph, everyone wants a photograph with you. So we have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and that's why I haven't run it for a few years. My last one I ran in 2012, which was my 30th. And interestingly enough, I ran with Zola Budd, and I helped Zola through the race, and it was her first.
Wow. That is absolutely monumental. Two running greats together.
Yeah, Zola ran her first Comrades and I ran my 30th, and we ran together.
So are you putting off doing the 31st one? Because if you do that, you've got to at least get to 40 then, haven't you?
No, you see, you can say that, but there's no possible chance that I can do the most. And I know in the London Marathon, they have that, because I've run a few Londons, that they have that category of the ever-presents who've done every London. It's impossible to have done every Comrades, of course, because it's 93 years old. But there are two runners, Louis Massain and Barry Holland, who will be running their 46th Comrades Marathons. Then there's several this year, and then there's several runners in the 40s. So it seems ridiculous, but me with 30 runs, I'm a junior. I'm a youngster compared to those guys. So I could never do the most. And my time is more valuably spent in many ways nowadays not running. But I've got one saved up. And that is, I think, 6 or 7 years' time, the 100th Comrades. I don't care what it takes to get myself through that, because that will be a very, very special year.
That will be absolutely epic. And you're saying about the most medals. I remember standing next to a guy with 40 medals on his bib and another guy with 39. And here's my bib from last year with a big fat zero.
Wonderful.
And I was thinking of 79 medals here, and I don't have a single one of them.
Yeah, but it's a blue number, which means you get identified straight away as being a runner.
Yeah, but to be fair, because you have one on the front and back in Comrades, don't you? Yeah. So it was fantastic because people coming up behind me in the latter parts of the race could recognise this was my first one, and they knew probably how I was feeling, and they're giving me that encouragement. And I think that was brilliant to be clearly identifiable as a new person.
And you're not coming back for your back-to-back.
I couldn't afford to, Bruce. So I really wanted to. I really wanted to, but I just couldn't do it.
You should have stowed away on a plane or something. There are hundreds of runners. For the listeners and the viewers, a back-to-back medal is one of the ways the Comrades Marathon hooks you into doing it more than once, because when you do Comrades in the other direction from the way you have run, you get an additional medal to your finisher's medal. You get what's known as a back-to-back medal, and the back-to-back Hermes figures, because the emblem of Comrades is the messenger of the gods Hermes. So it's two Hermes running away from each other to say that you've done back.
Yeah, exactly. I've got my medal just here, actually.
Yeah, and isn't it tiny? It's
tiny.
So
I can just show that up to the camera. There's Hermes there.
Yes, that's it. Yep.
Yeah.
Because you've held it close to the camera, it looks massive.
But yeah, it is. It is a small medal. I think people in England will know that about, the way it goes over here is each race is trying to make the biggest and cover the medals in glitter and all kinds of stuff. And there's a very good reason why Comrades hasn't followed suit, and it's this size.
Never changed. It's never changed. But then similarly, my father was a soldier. In fact, he was in the Gurkhas, and he long ago taught me all about the Victoria Cross. And the Victoria Cross is a fairly understated, rather small cross when you look at it in dark bronze, but it says everything. And in its simplicity, it says everything. You just know that somebody with one of those, what they've done to earn it. And I think it's quite similar with the Comrades. It's a small medal, but wow, it packs a big punch.
Absolutely, it's not the size that counts, as they say. It's the meaning of it, and when you cross that finish line, you know what it took to get you there, and you've earned that medal.
Oh yes, definitely.
So we've got a question coming, Bruce, from Jeffrey Chisnell. He says he knows that you've done 30 Comrades, and this might be a tough question, but which of them would you say was your most memorable?
Always your first one, like you, Richard. You might come back and do more, but your first one, because you're going into the unknown and you have no idea whether you're going to make it or not, despite the fact that thousands before you have, and some of them far less athletic than you and I are. So, but you still have full of doubts. But then, without a doubt, my proudest finish was my 1981 win, which was my first win, where Comrades, to its shame, and as I said earlier, the Comrades has been intertwined with South Africa's history, not always the proudest thing, and not always great. The Comrades, to its shame, in 1981 allowed itself to be made a part of the apartheid Republic Day nationalist government celebrations, which included a whole lot of things like tank parades and flypasts and nationalist ministers wagging their fingers and giving horrible fascist speeches. And so those of us who were in disagreement with that showed our disagreement. Many runners withdrew and said they're not going to run. But those of us who wanted to run, and me selfishly, because I knew I had a good chance of winning, we wore black armbands to protest against the race being associated with apartheid celebrations. And we were subject to a lot of abuse. I was hit with tomatoes and eggs and all sorts of things while I was running, but I won. And so that always, for me, will always be my proudest Comrades. Actually, my saddest, because I was a very unpopular winner. But many years later, when I received a state president's award from Nelson Mandela, and he told me that the prisoners on Robben Island, the political prisoners on Robben Island, were cheering for me, and there were some other people who wore armbands, but I was just a high-profile one because I won it. That made it all worthwhile. And I look back on that as my proudest win, even though I went much faster in some later Comrades.
Yeah, and I think that's, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, that, isn't it? Because you remember it for very good reasons and very bad reasons. But yes. I think, what you would have achieved by winning and wearing that armband and just drawing so much national attention to the issue, you would have done absolute wonders.
No doubt. I'm so glad I did. And it's quite interesting how the crowds love a winner. And so once I had won, maybe for the third time, I was the darling of the road between Pietermaritzburg and Durban, and they love me. It's the same when you watch Wimbledon. Everybody loves the old champion and they don't like the new a kid on the block, and then a few years later they love the new kid on the block, and they, you know, that's how it goes.
Yeah, and I've got another question coming in from Lady of Bucks, and she wants to know, do you prefer to race up or down years?
I love the up run. So I won 6 ups and 3 downs. But that was because also in the time that I ran, there were 2 up runs in a row. That whenever there's an anniversary or a celebration, they run up to Pietermaritzburg, because the home of Comrades is not Durban, it's Pietermaritzburg. But I preferred the up. I was very strong on the uphills, and I found the down run really painful. You know, the way I sum it up is the up run, you limp badly for about 3 or 4 days afterwards, and you lose 2 toenails. The down run, you limp badly for about a week afterwards. A curbstone, it might as well be the north face of the Eiger. There's no way you can go down, and you lose all your toenails. That's the way. I preferred the up run. I still do.
Yeah, and having only done the up run, it's obviously my favourite. I remember you just laughing at me when I came into the parkrun conference, and you said to me, "How did you find Polly Shorts?" Which is obviously the last big hill when you're exhausted.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to say anything. I think you could just tell by the look on my face.
Yeah. So yeah, for the viewers and the listeners, it's a monstrous hill that's basically 2 kilometers. I call it over a mile long, but really steep, and go straight up, and you hit it after you've done 50 miles. So you can't describe to somebody who hasn't run what it's like. And it's called Polly Shorts, which is a strange name named after the farmer who used to farm on that particular hill. And well done to you, Richard, because if I was only ever going to do one Comrades, I'd say you must go up, because you got to say that you crawled up Polly Shorts. You notice how every confidence you didn't run up there flat out.
Oh, it was awful. I remember because in Comrades, so what we might know as a pacing group or pacers over in our half marathons and that here, they call them a bus over there, don't they? So
yes, it's a bus. So it's a whole group of like-minded people who travel at the same speed, and there's an expert, a bus driver, who drives the bus and leads the bus at the correct pace to arrive at a certain time at the finish.
Yeah, and I remember at the bottom of Polly Shorts, I was just ahead of the 11-hour bus, and I was trying to get my bronze medal, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to run, and I thought, they're going to pass me. And when I got to the top, they'd walked the hill as well, so they were still behind me. And I thought, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do it. And then I started to run maybe about another K, and then I was done. It just ran out of steam, and I had to walk it in from there. But just about made it for the Vic Clapham medal, so I was over the moon.
Well done.
Yeah. So right, what other questions have we got? So Lady of Bucks has asked, is there any race where you'd had enough and you wanted to quit? And it doesn't have to be Comrades; it can be any race.
I'm not ashamed to say I have dropped out of some races. I've run for my province. In the old days, South Africa was excluded from a lot of international sport, but I ran for my province, Transvaal, and at a South African old 16K championships, because the 16K champs was the old UK 10 miles. I remember dropping out after 3Ks when I knew it wasn't my day. So I think you have to distinguish between being lazy and having something genuinely that's not right. And sometimes it takes more courage to say, actually, this is not my day, save myself for another day to fight again. However, having said that, I would never, ever drop out of a Comrades, because for one thing, I'd be the laughing stock for the rest of my life. And you have huge respect from other runners if you decide, okay, it's not my day, I'm walking from now on. And you can walk up to 40 kilometers of the Comrades and still make it. And you grab a beer from a spectator and you say, okay, I'm out. I started in the darkness because it's winter in South Africa. So you start at 5:30 in the morning, it's dark, and I'm going to finish as it's getting dark at 5:30 in the afternoon. And so that's the one race I wouldn't. But if there was something wrong with me, I was sick or injured, I wouldn't start. That's the difference. I know myself well enough to know whether I would make it or not.
Okay, and then the one thing I wanted to ask you to cover was, if somebody's watching this and they're maybe hearing about Comrades for the first time, or they're thinking of signing up for 2019, obviously it's 2 marathons and then another few K on top.
Yes.
So that's quite a long way. What would you advise people to do to train for that kind of distance, and especially with the hills if it's an up year?
Yeah, so the first thing, you left off one thing, is 2 marathons with a little bit added on the end, and a lot of the biggest hills you've ever seen in your life. And the up run is 5 registered major hills, with a lot of hills that have no names, that if they were in any other marathon, they would be called coronary thrombosis heights or heart attack hill or something. But my first thing is, you will do it, you can do it, because the most important thing that you train is your brain. And once your brain has got used to the idea that you are running this 90K race, it ratchets into gear to say, are you going to do this? And you train for Comrades exactly the same way you would train for a marathon, but possibly throwing in a handful of some longer runs, like the odd 30-miler if you can. But you can get away with it running a handful of standard marathons. And my best example of that is Leonid Shvetsov, the Russian, who won 2 and still holds the up record. His longest training run is a 35K run, so a little bit over 20 miles. And he's not short of endurance in Comrades, I can promise you that. So it's train exactly as if you were running the London Marathon or any other marathon. Throw in a couple of longer runs, believe in yourself, and it is the greatest adventure you can ever have. And if you're a visitor from anywhere overseas, you are spoiled rotten. You have your own place where you go and pick up your numbers. There is an international cocktail party, which is next Thursday evening at the Hilton Hotel. It is a riot. I don't mean necessarily drunken, but I mean, it's just great fun. Everybody comes from around the world. There's Russians there, there's New Zealanders, there's Canadians, there's Aussies, everybody. And it's just the best fun that you can ever have. And then the race itself is the greatest adventure you can ever give yourself. The kind of person, I'm sure you'll agree with me, Richard, that the kind of person you are today is not the same person you were the day before Comrades, because you now know that you can do anything, that you set your mind to, you can do anything. And when you were out there, you met a hero and the person you deeply admire and respect, and that's yourself, because no one can get you off. And the up run, it's, like I say, the up run, it's from Cato Ridge to the end is, you're on your own. You're surrounded by thousands of runners, but you're on your own. You've got to get yourself home. Next Sunday, from Pinetown onwards, from 70 Ks onwards, it's who you are. You know, it's what you can find inside yourself. And 90% of the people finish. So doesn't that tell you something?
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that when I was at the expo last year, and I forget the gentleman's name now, but he was saying, you know, never ever stop moving forward. You know, if you're taking a drink, keep moving. If you're talking to a friend, keep moving. And he said, you know, if you're there at the end when that gun fires and you're 10 seconds from the line, it'll be all those seconds that you wasted standing still, not that you weren't capable. So I just kept that in my mind the whole time. And I was like, just keep moving, just keep moving.
Yeah, don't stop for a massage. Don't sit down to have a drink, keep going. And as you will remember, the tables, the seconding tables, or in the States, I think they call them aid stations. There are 48 of them, 44, 45, something like that along the way, with everything that you could possibly want. And on Comrades Marathon Day, you are the elite, and a total stranger who lives at the side of the road will allow you to rush into their house, and they will make coffee for you if that's what you wanted. They'll let you use their bathroom if that's what you wanted. The following day, they'll kick you out. But on Comrades Day, when you're wearing that number, you can get anything. And it's the most extraordinary race. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I went there for the next test, the next challenge, if you like. I started out, I'd done my 5K, my 10K, my half, my marathon. I'd even then thrown in, I did the Great Wall Marathon with 5,000 stairs to climb.
Yes.
And it's, for me, it's always about upping the game and challenging myself further. And Comrades just looked to me to be that challenge. And it was, it was hard. It was that close to it breaking me. But, you know, it was so hard, but so amazing all at the same time. And I think if you're ever going to do one ultra, you may as well make it Comrades, because it was so memorable.
I think a lot of people say the start is very emotional. The start, when they play, you'll remember they play the traditional song Shosholoza, and then they have the national anthem, then they have Chariots of Fire, then they have the cockerel crow just before the start, which Max used to make the sound of a cockerel crowing, and he's since died, but they taped him, so they play Max Trimborn's cockerel crow, and then 20,000 people gulp because they know the next second the gun's going.
Yeah, and it was a huge cannon as well. You certainly knew when the race had started.
It's a huge cannon because there's several in Comrades. The batches, the starting pens are alphabetical, so it goes from A all the way back to H. So there's got to be a huge cannon for the poor folk back in H batch to hear that the race has in fact started. And the cruel part of the race is that it's unfortunately gun to gun. It is not chip to chip. So the people at the back, unfortunately, can walk. It takes them about 12 to 15 minutes to cross the start line, and the clock's been running all that time, and you haven't. That's just another of the cruel Comrades traditions. Yeah,
it was quite brutal at the end. I finished in 11:18, and I've just about composed myself. And then I was shouting with all my might at the runners, like they were my relatives. Come on! And one guy even, he was I don't know how many meters he was, but he was getting there, and he just knew he didn't have time, and he just fell on the floor. He put his head in his hands. He was crying, and I could see what it meant to him and how devastated.
You'd been out there the whole day, to say nothing of the months and months of training to get there.
Yeah, and he must have been like, I can almost touch it. It's right there, and he just knew he wasn't going to make it.
Sorry, next year. That's what they say to them.
Yeah, come back next year. Oh, well, someone who's thinking of coming next year is Jeffrey Chisnell. He's saying he's thinking of doing 2020, but maybe even 2019. So, I mean, you live in South Africa, Jeffrey. You've got no excuses.
Did you see South Africa? Yeah, why wait? 2019 is beckoning. Watch this year on television. It'll fire you up, and 2019 is around the corner.
And he's also asked, not Comrades related, but Bruce, are you going to be at, is it Grabouw Park Run, the launch this weekend? So it's a new
Grabouw. Yeah, Grabouw is a beautiful town, about an hour's drive from Cape Town. And I try to be at as many of the launches as I possibly can. And I will definitely be there, even though we have rain forecast. This is unheard of for the Cape. They've got a serious drought on, but there is rain forecast. But yeah, I'll definitely be there. Looking forward to it.
Oh, fantastic. Maybe Jeffrey will see you there then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think one thing UK people should know, if you're going to go to Comrades, you'll see Bruce sat in his fleece there, because he'll tell you it's winter. It's not winter. It's boiling hot.
We're freezing. I think it's about, I don't know, 17 or 18 degrees centigrade at the moment. Freezing cold. This morning I had to run in 9 degrees centigrade. Couldn't believe it. Teasing you guys. It did snow in Johannesburg once. September the 10th, 1981. It's indelibly etched in our minds because we didn't know what to do. It snowed quite heavily.
36 years ago.
That's how well we can remember it. And you get the odd dusting of snow, but our winter's 2 or 3 months long, and then it's over.
No, fantastic. I really do appreciate your time, Bruce, for coming on and talking to me. And I hope that everybody who is there this year doing the down run, you have an absolute blast, the same as I did last year. I wish I was with you all back there, but
there's still time. You can jump on a plane, Richard.
How am I going to get my qualifying marathon done this week?
You'll probably find you have an absolute blinder.
But yeah, thank you for coming on, Bruce. I really do appreciate it. And if anybody wants to send Bruce a tweet or ask him any questions after this interview, I've put the links to all of Bruce's social media below this video in the description, which you can click on.
Okay, great, yeah.
And then I guess they can see you at Grabouw Park Run if they're there. So
yes, and hope to see lots of people who are listening tonight or listen to recorded versions of this 2019 uprun.
Yeah, and I may even come back if I can convince my good lady. Don't tell her, she's out there somewhere. But yeah.
don't tell my wife that I'm planning on the 100th because my knee's shot and she says she doesn't want to push me around in a wheelchair if I keep on running, but I'm not stopping.
No, I think they know they're not going to stop us deep down.
Yeah.
No, fantastic, Bruce. Right. Well, I just checked there's no more questions. No, there isn't, and
okay,
we are out
Thanks.
of time. So thank you very much, and as always, sorry.
No, thank you. And we'll chat sometime after Comrades or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And as always, if you've liked watching this video, please do click the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel for more running related content. And if you click the bell notification next to the subscribe button, you'll be notified when I do a live stream like this. It will pop up on your phone and let you know. And thank you very much, everybody, for watching. I'll see you on the next one. And thanks very much, Bruce. See you later.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.